Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Love Queendom. This is a space of love and joy and peace and abundance and all the good things. And here at The Love Queendom, we talk about spiritual ascension and how to create your own reality. I'm forgetting my own intro. And on today's episode, I want to do a 3-part deep dive into what the 3D matrix is, why it exists, and how you can escape it, okay? Because if you guys have ever seen the movie The Matrix, you will understand that it is a analogy or a metaphor for the physical reality that we exist in. It's kind of an analogy of how it works, right? So I'm going to sort of explain to you how this reality actually works, why it exists, what is going on with it right now, and how you can escape sort of this 3D matrix timeline that has kind of been hijacked by evil forces that are trying to keep humanity steered to a particular timeline, okay? So let's jump right into it. And if you have any questions or anything is not clear, please feel free to comment, send me an email. I would really appreciate any feedback that you guys have on this series and the information that I'm sharing. So first of all, what is the Matrix? Okay, so we live in a holographic reality, okay? And this holographic reality is basically like a hyper-realistic spiritual video game. Okay, that is the best way to describe it. Now, if you imagine a hologram, if you picture a hologram, the conventional understanding of a hologram is that it is sort of translucent. It's not solid, you can put your hand through it and you know that it's not real, right? In a normal video game, the player of the video game is also outside of the game, right? And they use some sort of controller to move their character in the game. Also, in a normal video game, the graphics are not that great, meaning that you can tell it's not real, right? Although the graphics are improving every year, you know that it's a game, right? Now, this reality that we're in is hyper realistic, okay? Meaning that your brain really truly believes that this experience is real. It doesn't know that it's a video game, basically, right? So it feels super real, and that's because it's just super, super advanced. And another aspect of this game is that the person controlling the player is inside of the avatar, okay? So we're all here playing a game. It's just a game, but you don't know that you're in a game. Okay, your body is just an avatar that you're using to move around the game, okay? And as I said, another aspect of this game, in order for it to be enhanced, is that it has sensation or feeling in order for it to feel like hyper realistic, right? The graphics are amazing. You can't tell that it's, artificial, let's say. The hologram is solid. You can feel it. It has touch. It has taste. It has smell. It has all these different sensations. And you don't know, okay, because you don't remember when you come into the game that this is just a game and that you are a different self outside of the game, right? So that is kind of the basics of how this holographic reality works. It's just a game, but it's super, super advanced, okay? Now, why does this game exist? Okay. This is a game that has been designed by higher levels of being, okay, more advanced entities. Human beings, we believe that we are the pinnacle of God's creation, right? There is nothing else outside of our planet, outside of our dimension, outside of our sphere that is more intelligent and more advanced than us. This is what we believe. And this is why we also, view physical beings that are below us. We know they're not as intelligent as us, right? Like, we know an elephant is not as intelligent as a human. And that's not to say that an elephant doesn't have a level of intelligence, but an elephant can't speak. An elephant can't build a skyscraper. An elephant can't create nuclear weapons, right? That is outside of the scope of an elephant's abilities, right? Same thing with a dog or a whale or a tiger or something like that, right? We know that we intellectually are more advanced than these beings. And because we are so smart, we have this false belief that there can't be anything smarter than us. And a lot of this also comes from religious programming, right? Because we are taught to believe that God created us in his image and we are the pinnacle of his creation. So we don't really know that it's possible for there to be beings that are even more advanced than us that have created us, that we are just in a video game, right? Human beings, we have created video games. You have Grand Theft Auto, you have The Sims, you have World of Warcraft. These are kind of hyper realistic games that mimic aspects of our physical existence, right? So we know how to do this, but it is beyond our perception, our conceptualization of how we know ourselves to be, how we think reality is. It's completely beyond the scope of thinking that maybe something more advanced than us created a game that we are actually in. And that's literally what has happened, okay? So higher beings have designed this game, and this game exists because we are all fractals of infinite intelligence, okay? And when I say infinite intelligence, I am referring to God or source, right? Whatever you want to call it. And these fractals of infinite intelligence have created this game to have a different perspective of experience. And these games are essentially designed for the creator to know itself by its experiencing itself as separate from itself, okay? I wrote notes for this episode, so if I sound like I'm struggling, it's because I'm reading my notes. So, okay, this is just a way for the one infinite source of all being to experience itself as separate from itself. Because if it were to just be, to just exist, there is no separation for it to see itself, to understand who it is and what it is. So it has to create these different perspectives through which it can experience itself and know what it is, know aspects of itself, okay? Now, in this game, because Earth is not the only game. There's different planets where they are also having, holographic reality games, different universes, different galaxies. Like, it's literally infinite, okay? But there's different levels of the game. So the level that we are at right now has particular lessons, okay? And every level of the game, there are different lessons that you are meant to learn. So the primary lessons here on the Earth game revolve around making a choice between love and compassion over fear and competition, okay, or fear and separation. That is the primary aspect or primary goal of this game, right? If you want to win Earth game, you have to go through experiences in your life that will push you to make a choice between fear and love. And there's no, I don't want to say there's no real winning, but let's just say both sides are valid. Both sides are equally valid. But you don't want to be dancing around the middle, is what I'll say. You want to make a firm choice as to which one that you're choosing, because if you try to dance around the middle, you will inevitably get swept up by one of the two sides, usually in a way that will not really feel good for you, right? Like, the idea is that you are able to, through your own self-sovereignty, through your own full understanding of yourself, pick a side at this level of the game. And then you go on to other levels of the game, having picked your side and going through further experiences to gain increased power, increased skills, knowledge, and understanding through that path. Okay. So that's the purpose of Earth. Now, there are some other aspects of the game that I should mention as well, because these are very important to know. Another layer of the Earth game is the veil, otherwise known as the veil of forgetting. Okay. And like I said, we come into this game not knowing that it's a game, not knowing that, our true self is outside of the game, right? But in order for the game to be challenging and to enhance the experience, we come into the game with that forgetting of our true self. Another aspect of the game is co-creation, and this is a big one. So because the game is a hologram and the experience is controlled through the mind of the player, you can essentially co-create your experience in the game by choosing outcomes or experiences and aligning to these experiences, okay? So it's not that you are going to be able to control every single little minute detail of your life, but you can choose outcomes. You can choose the direction of your life, right? So if you are on a particular path in your life that's going to be leading you down, I don't know, maybe becoming a drug addict or something, right? At any point in time, you can choose, I don't want to be on that timeline anymore. I want to align to a different timeline where I'm sober and I'm happy. You will not necessarily know exactly what that timeline looks like, right? Because again, there's no fun in the game if you know every single thing that's going to happen. Like, what would be the point of that? But you will just know that is the timeline that I'm aligned to, and however it unfolds and whatever it looks like, that part is not really in your control, but you will ultimately know the outcome of that timeline is I'm going to be sober and live a happy life, right? So you can choose what you want to align yourself to. And when people talk about things like the law of attraction or the law of assumption or creating your own reality, this is basically what they're talking about. They're talking about how to understand the mechanisms of co-creation and use it to draw certain things to you or have certain experiences, okay? So the experience of every player is a projection of their own mind and their own body. And I say body as well because there is an important link between the mind and the body that needs to be understood in order for you to learn how to co-create effectively, okay? And I'm going to go more into that. So in order for your player or your avatar to generate an experience, it needs to be able to feel that experience. Because remember, a major differentiator of this hologram from other holograms is that you can feel it, right? There's sensation. So how you create experiences is by normalizing the feeling of that experience in your mind repeatedly and knowing to 100% and accepting that that outcome is going to happen for you no matter what, okay? So in other words, in order for you to be an effective co-creator and really master that aspect of the game, you have to know how to believe something before you can see it in the physical reality. You have to know it and you have to feel it in order for it to be real and to appear in your reality. I'm going to put some more sources and links below that talk more specifically to this. My favorite video lecture about this is Marina Jacobi's quantum manifestation. Okay, she explains it not just from a law of attraction, woo-woo manifesting perspective. She explains it from a quantum science perspective, how this works. Okay, you have to hold the knowing in your mind repeatedly over and over and over again, and keep yourself aligned to that outcome, so that is the outcome that unfolds for you. And again, you will not know the when or the how of the unfolding, okay, getting to the outcome. All you need to know is the what and the why, because the what is what you're telling your higher self, the universe, the hologram, basically, right? You're telling it what you want to experience, but you have to know why you want to experience that, because in order for you to stay aligned to that outcome, you have to have a strong why. And this is particularly true for outcomes that are not going to just appear in your reality right away, right? Something like maybe becoming the CEO of a specific company. You have to know why you want that, because if you don't know why, and let's say it takes you 5 years to get there, or 10 or 15 years to get there, what is going to be the driver that keeps you going on that path to that outcome if you don't have a strong why, right? And this becomes increasingly more important when you are doing conscious co-creation, because if you're trying to create something using the co-creation mechanisms, which is, you are knowing it into being before you can see it in your physical reality, that takes a lot of faith. And so you have to have a very strong why to stay on that path for however long it's going to take for that thing to materialize in your physical reality, because you don't always know how long the unfolding is going to take. But once you are able to normalize a feeling, okay, what this means is that your body has a program to run the experience, okay? So you will not be able to experience certain things in this 3D reality hologram if your body does not have a program to run that experience, meaning that experience has to feel like something possible for you. It has to feel normal for you. It can't feel like something that is far-fetched or impossible for you to achieve or experience. If it feels that way for you, and I keep stressing the feeling because this is really how this stuff works. If it doesn't feel real for you, if it feels far or impossible for you, you're not going to be able to experience it because you don't have the program to run it. So subconsciously, your behaviors are not going to align to that thing somehow. Okay, this is just what will happen. So let me give you a brief example, okay? Let's say travel to the island of Seychelles, okay? Seychelles, it's an exotic destination off the east coast of Africa, if you don't know where that is. But it's a place that many people can only dream of going, right? It's a unique destination. It's far off for many people. It's probably somewhere that a lot of people don't even know exists, right? So even if someone presented to them this idea of going to the island of Seychelles for vacation, if they don't have a program to run that experience, meaning if it doesn't feel possible for them, they will never be able to experience it. So whatever feelings have been normalized in your player, in your avatar, that is the range of experiences that your player will be able to have, okay? Anything outside of that you're going to hit roadblocks, and I'll talk sort of what that looks like later. But this is very important information. If you want to be able to experience a different type of reality that you have not been able to experience before, you have to start learning how to work with your mind and your body to normalize feelings of that experience. a person who teaches people how to do this really, really well is Joe Dispenza, okay? I have taken one of his courses. I do one of his meditations, not daily, but it's a regular part of my, co-creation daily practice, let's say. So yeah, he's someone that I highly recommend. I will also link him below. Now, this mainstream 3D matrix on Earth that most people are living in, it sort of keeps them locked into certain realities and experiences and timelines that for the most part are, number one, undesirable. Okay, most people on this planet are struggling. They're living in lack, they're living in poverty. They are not having a very positive and harmonious experience overall. Okay, there are aspects of their life that are undesirable, uncomfortable, and they wish to get out of it. But, because they are operating from programs and frequencies that are keeping them there and they don't understand this, they're not able to break out of it. And not only are they not able to break out of these experiences, they're not also going to be able to completely eject themselves from the whole thing, the overarching 3D matrix that is, kind of the overarching thing that we're talking about. How do you escape from? Okay. And this is what we're going to go into in subsequent parts of this series. So basically what has happened, okay, is this 3D matrix has sort of been hijacked, okay? So 3D is supposed to be a holographic experience for spiritual growth, right? It's spiritual growth and learning where you are choosing love and compassion over fear and competition, fear and separation, right? So in order for you to make that choice, the game programs certain types of experiences that are meant to act as catalysts for you to make that choice, right? And the experiences contain some level of pain and suffering, usually, right? And it's through those experiences that you are kind of pushed and forced to realize certain things and make a choice. Am I going to choose love and compassion from this experience, or am I going to, go the route of fear and competition and separation and maybe, believing that things outside of me were the cause of this, and, I just have to fend for myself in this kind of hyper competitive sort of way that everything outside of you is against you. You know what I mean? So basically what this means is that every experience of your life is trying to teach you something. So from here on out, pay attention to your life experiences, because at the end of the day, these things are all a reflection of what your programs are and also what lessons that you still need to learn, okay? So the game is meant to contain some level of suffering, okay? But as I said, it has been hijacked. And it's been hijacked by more advanced players, okay, who are on higher levels, okay? These players are like 4D, 5D and above, let's say. And they are basically hijacking this 3D game to keep Earth stuck in 3D so they can be at the top of the food chain of 3D and sort of enjoy the pleasures of it in a sadistic way, okay? And in other words, if they can keep you within a certain frequency that makes you easy to control, they can remain above you and they can use you for whatever they want to use you for. And I'm not going to go into the details of what they do to humans and what they make humans do to each other as well, because it gets very dark. But I'll link some resources in the description that go more into that, okay? But what you need to know is that the 3D matrix has been hijacked, okay? It has been hijacked to keep humanity in fear in conflict, in lack, and most importantly, in trauma, okay? Emotional and psychological trauma that keeps people, through the natural mechanisms of your mind, it has built-in trauma responses. So through these mechanisms, they can sort of fracture your consciousness so that you stay stuck in this hyper-physical reality, not wanting to kind of look deeper within yourself, because when you have a lot of trauma that you're carrying, it is very, very scary and uncomfortable to face that. So the more that they can convince you to do traumatizing things to yourself, the more that they can fracture you so that you don't ever want to look at that to heal it and integrate it and clear it out and come into the level of alignment that you need to be into so that you can experience a positive 3D reality that is filled with peace, joy, love, abundance, and all the good things. So now, how are they doing this? Okay. So as we talked about, one of the aspects of this 3D matrix is co-creation, right? And so because players' experiences are controlled through their minds and through their bodies, entities that understand how the game works have manipulated the game to keep the majority of players' consciousness locked in a certain area, and therefore it keeps their bodies stuck in certain frequencies through certain types of stimulation, okay? And this type of stimulation includes the news, which is very negative, as we know, mainstream movies and TV shows that bombard you with, certain types of narratives and certain ways of being that are normalized. Music is a big one, mainstream music. And I also would say that there are many facets of social media now that are also acting as somewhat of a feedback loop to keep people locked into certain reality timelines. Okay, so we are seeing the rise of something like TikTok, where people are being shown what they like to see. So if you tell the algorithm that you like to see stuff about, I don't know, like bashing women, for example, right? Or that sort of content, you see more and more and more and more and more of that. And then that becomes your reality because it's like bombarding your consciousness with these types of beliefs, these types of programs. And so it locks into your subconscious, and then you begin to notice it more in your physical reality, or your perception of reality begins to be based on that type of stimulation, which is kind of like shifting you into a particular reality timeline that can be very weird. And let me give you an example of this, okay? So let's say when you watch the news and it tells you that there are violent attacks taking place in your city, and then you start thinking about this all the time, like, oh my God, my city isn't safe. And then you start becoming fearful. You become paranoid about it. And you are basically programming your body to normalize that experience. That's what you're doing. And when you do that, even if something bad doesn't happen to you, what happens is that you will notice it more and you will see more of it, and it will feel close to you at all times because you've normalized that feeling. Okay. So this idea of like, oh my God, maybe I'm going to be attacked because, there's an increase of violent attacks in my city. I need to watch my shoulder at all times. You're walking around in that feeling at all times, every time you leave your house. You're creating that experience for yourself. And like I said, even if it doesn't happen to you, you will see it. You will notice things that will make it feel like it's happening to you, right? So that is keeping you locked in a certain reality timeline. And the powers that be, this is what they want, okay? They want you to continue believing in their timeline, which is rooted in fear, okay? Fear, lack, competition, just negative stuff, right? They want you in that because if they can keep you in those lower states of being, number one, they can steer you in the direction that they want you to go that is beneficial for them and not you. And you will be easier to control because when you are in a state of fear, okay, you will look for something that will give you a promise of safety, right? So if someone comes to you and says, hey, come over here, I'll save you, it's safe here, you don't have to do anything, I'm your savior. You in the state of fear and panic will go to anything that seems like it will help you come out of your state of fear, right? And so they can use that to manipulate you and trick you. And the only way to save yourself from these timelines is for your mind, okay? You have to know how to control your consciousness and pull your mind out of these programs, these states of fear, trauma, lack, poverty, all of that stuff. You have to pull your mind up into love, and you have to get your body into these higher frequencies that are based on these higher level emotions like love, joy, peace, harmony, abundance, right? You have to normalize those feelings so that your body is no longer in a frequency that is compatible with the trauma 3D matrix, with the lower earth matrix. This is what I'm calling it here on out, okay? It's lower earth because that whole thing is just disgusting. And it's like sinking and going worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, okay? This agenda that they are pushing, okay, it is very evil, it is very sinister, it is very sadistic, and it is very real. And like I said, the movie, The Matrix, is an analogy for this reality, right? Because in the movie, The Matrix, when you wake up from the Matrix, you basically wake up to the reality that this is what's really going on. It's like, oh my God, the Matrix is just a simulation that we think is real, A, and B, when you come out of the Matrix, you realize that there is this agenda to keep people asleep inside of the Matrix so that they can be used and harvested by entities that are outside of the Matrix, right? In the movie, those entities are artificial intelligence controlled robots that are using human beings as batteries. In reality, okay, like our reality, that's not exactly what is going on, but it's something very similar. Okay, at the end of the day, it is a type of energy harvesting that they're doing. And like I said, I'm not really going to go too deep into that on this video, but if you want me to talk about that in another video, I can. It's just I post this this podcast on YouTube as well, and people always talk about YouTube being weird and sensory, so I don't know if I say something it will block my video or whatever. I don't want that to happen. But yes, as I said, there's a way out of all of this. And, when you fully come out of the Matrix and you pull yourself out of the struggling and the suffering timelines, you move into what I call, the queendom of heaven, the higher earth timelines, the 5D timelines where everything is peaceful, everything is harmonious, everything is easy. You feel good all the time. You're in a reality that is filled with just like love and joy and harmony, and like everything is just working out for you nicely, and you don't really have to be too stressed about anything. You're fully in alignment with yourself. You just feel good all the time. You can live in your truth and really be who you are, and like you just feel free. That is where I ultimately want everyone to get to, because as I said, the movie The Matrix is an analogy for this as well. But in the movie The Matrix, I believe the person who had the awakening that inspired them to create that script, they never pulled themselves out of, let's say, the darker parts of awakening where all you're seeing is that there's a war going on between good and evil, and it's just seems so dark and bleak when you come out of the illusion of the Matrix, right? there is a place that you can get to when you come out of the matrix that is the beautiful place, right? But that requires you to understand the mechanisms of how to control your reality. And that requires you to learn how to control your consciousness, control your emotions, which is also part of what is creating your reality experience, right? And so you can be outside of the matrix, you can be awakened, right, out of the illusion, but you're not existing in the dark, that dark place outside of the matrix, in that awakening stage where you just are seeing the ugly nature of everything going on. You are meant to ascend out of that as well and go to the beautiful place, the peaceful place, the joyful place. And that is when you fully ascend out of the matrix and you are now able to go to the 5D Earth timeline, the timeline where there is perhaps no veil between, you knowing that you are kind of just a spiritual being having a human experience, that your body is just your avatar and stuff like that. And you fully understand the mechanisms of co-creation, and you are able to use that to have harmonious, beautiful experiences that you want to have. And then you also begin to learn and harness even greater psychic and spiritual abilities. Okay, this includes things like telepathy and telekinesis as well. So yeah, I will talk about how to escape the matrix, raising your frequency. And also in the last part of this series, I'm going to talk about how to transcend money, because I think that's a big one that not a lot of people talk about it in the way that I speak about it. Marina Jacobi is the only person who I've come across that speaks about it in a similar way. And again, that is because I think the people that she works with who are off-world beings, they really understand the kind of co-creation, how it really works, right? And so because most people are existing within a level of perception of reality where they still kind of believe in money, which is a lack kind of program, it's hard for them to understand, like, how can I live my life without this struggle and hustle for money? So I'm going to talk about that in the third one as well. So stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for listening. I will see you guys in the next episode.